Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm showing off a custom clone trooper I've made. The design is based on the Wolfpack clone trooper from Battlefront 2. I made him using the body from a Phase 1 clone trooper and the helmet from a Camino clone trooper. It was a pretty simple process. I used paint remover or acetone to strip some of the paint down on the helmet. I tried to keep a lot of it, obviously the visor and some of the grey around the side of the helmet. And then using tape, let's see if it'll focus. I created the sort of ribbon he has around his head, the stripe. The decal is from Bad Mother Customs on eBay. It's a bit hefty, but I got quite a few of them, and I'll certainly use them again because this has turned out quite well. So I actually used two customs to get the colour as accurate as I could, because the colours aren't particularly accurate to the colours used by the Wolfpack clone trooper. For the body, I used a white primer to make sure that the body itself was able to be painted on, because I don't have an example of a figure I've used without primer, but for me at least, the paint struggles to stick on too well and it looks a bit streaky and it doesn't look as solid or as blocky as the paint when it's had primer applied. And then obviously the tape allows me to keep straight lines. Yeah, I've given him a very clean look, as the inspiration in Battlefront 2 is also a very clean clone trooper. Like I said, this is one that I'm quite proud of. This was quite a difficult design. It took me a few attempts to, I was going to say perfect, but it's not quite perfect. I'll show you him compared to Commander Wolf in a little bit. But yeah, I think he's turned out quite well, and I've also custom weathered the weapons. I tend to do this with most of my clones, but this one in particular I've sprayed with a matte varnish, which seals the paint on the gun, and it also gives it a matte effect, which I quite like. I didn't think I would. It looks a bit chalky, but I think it suits the guy quite well. Moving on from that weapon, I also customized his, I can't remember the names of them, DC-15, the big rifle. So that has a very similar paint job, and this also has that matte effect. Simple dry brushing techniques for this one. It's a bit rough around the edges, but the general idea is there, and it just looks like it's been used slightly. So like I said, this guy isn't super weathered. He's a shiny, so to speak. But yeah, he's turned out quite well. Obviously he still has all the posability that the new clone mold has. I was tempted to remove the shoulder pads and add some more accurate ones, because I actually have I have a little box of spare parts, and inside this box there is some shoulder pauldrons from a knockoff clone captain. But I decided to pass on that because the shoulder armour in Battlefront is actually incredibly similar to the size replicated in this figure. So I thought it looks more like it does in the game with the newer mould. I'll just show you him compared to, or rather next to, Commander Wolf. They share a very similar colour. Obviously Wolf is a bit shinier. He has a glossy sort of finish, whereas my guy has a more of a matte tone, which I prefer on my clone troopers. It's more of a personal preference, that. I could always spray paint these guys up, but I prefer keeping mine original, to be honest, or as closer to original as possible. You can see there what I mean about the differences between the shoulder sizes. So one thing I did have trouble with making this guy was getting the proportions of the emblem on his shoulder across onto a smaller shoulder pad, and initially that sort of escaped my planning phase when it came to actually making this guy. I assumed it would all line up properly if I did the emblem sort of halfway down the shoulder like Wolf's is, but obviously Wolf has this I don't know what's called, antenna here, and this guy doesn't. So when I first did this part here, I started it initially down here, so there really wasn't enough space to get all these lines in and give it that detail. So I had to wind up painting over that, varnishing it again, and then going back to scraping it away. But it's turned out quite well in the end, and obviously it's not identical, but it wouldn't be anyway with it being two different clone molds. So I'm quite happy with how it's turned out. Again, with the colours, there's very slight differences, but I think personally I prefer the colour used on my custom to the colour they actually used on Wolf. And that's not to say it's bad shade of grey. It's not wrong in any way. It's just an interpretation of a realistic colour. Translating Clone Wars to real life is quite difficult, and I think Battlefront kind of reaches that midway point for both. But that's it basically. It was a very fun custom to make, and obviously after doing this I still have a spare Camino clone body, which I do have plans for in the future, and a Phase 1 helmet, but to be honest, the state of that, chances are I will probably just use the head from inside and maybe just scrap the helmet, because it's really bad. Yeah, it's really bad, but that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed. Again, just a quick custom. A very unique trooper, one of my favourites, Wolfpack. They have some great appearances in the Clone Wars, and together these guys just look amazing. If you enjoyed the video, please do leave a like, and feel free to subscribe. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.